Professor Murakami, thank you very much for taking time out to speak to us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me to this program.
It's good to have you here. Now, the nuclear leakage accident in Tokai Village late last month came as a huge shock and surprise to the nation. As an expert on the history of science and science philosophy, how did you feel, and how did you view the news?
Of course, it was and still is a great surprise to me and disappointment as well. But I'd like to say something on this. Maybe as is well known worldwide, different from other developed countries, Japanese nuclear technology has been developed solely for the public use. By that what I mean is not for the military use.
Right.
So that means the core of the nuclear technology in Japan is related only to the electric power station, to construct the power stations and to maintain them safely.
Yes, the government holds a long-standing principle not to possess or produce or bring in nuclear weapons to Japan.
Exactly. And in that field, I think the Japanese nuclear industry can enjoy the worldwide shared, so to speak, confidence, I believe. And that confidence was betrayed or damaged by this accident. That's why I feel quite disappointing. But I'd like to add one thing. This accident took place not at the core of the nuclear industry in Japan, but rather at the peripheral part of the nuclear industry, because JCO, it's the name of the private enterprise.
Right.
JCO is rather small in scale, and that is not directly related to the core of the nuclear technology. That means for the maintenance of the electric power station itself. So the first lesson that we have to learn from this accident seems to me that to recheck all the peripheral parts of the nuclear industry in Japan.
So do you think that this has been neglected for all these years? The government has failed to check out on the safety of these companies and facilities? Because
of the JCO is a quite small and peripheral farm of the whole industry.
Well, nevertheless, the damage that they have made is enormous.
Yeah, that's the point of this accident, yes.
For example, how did the overseas media broadcast the news?
Yeah. Most of the responses have been quite severe for us, and it is natural. So, but typical response to this unfortunate accident went as follows, particularly in foreign countries. It is told that Japanese workers at the production line are always faithful, so to speak, to what is written in established manual, and also they have facility to do things by following the manual with exactness, and this accident betrays the confidence. We may now see a sign of deterioration or degeneration of such Japanese craftsmanship. That is a typical response.
Did they go that far?
Yeah, in foreign papers and TVs, programs, and so on, I heard.
Can you share this view?
Well, my analysis is quite opposite. That is not a sign of deterioration of Japanese craftsmanship, but one expression of the Japanese craftsmanship. A coin always has two faces, I guess.
Right.
And let us consider the reason why quality control movement amongst production firms, which originated in the U.S. but made a great success in Japan. Japanese workers at the production lines are quite active and positive to propose new ideas for improvement of the lines at which they work. They do not have any reluctance to make proposals and suggestions for improvement, even if they their proposals may result in their heavier labor conditions.
Really?
They are happy and encouraged when they see the manuals are often revised by accepting their proposal and suggestions. And this fact shows that most of the workers in Japanese production firms do have sufficient facility to make proposals and suggestions for efficacy improvement in QC movement. That supported the success of the QC movement in Japan. And in the case of this accident, unfortunate accident, the things that happened are quite similar to this.
Really?
The workers found that the manual should be improved to get better results. They proposed a revision of the manual or the improvement of the whole process, and their proposals were accepted, and they had worked with a revised manual. The administrators put confidence on the workers' facility to do such improvement. And the conduct which directly caused the criteria state was along the same line, I guess. The three workers, as far as we know by the report, the three workers believed that they devised a new improvement of the processing line, namely putting the materials into a mixer of the line manually instead of letting the processing automatical mechanisms. So to them, that is an improvement of the process.
I see.
The problem is that they did not have knowledge enough to judge this new device is appropriate or not. In other words, they were not sufficiently educated to work at the production line of radioactive materials. And the firm itself seems to lack necessary knowledge and cautious attitudes towards the radioactives. And that is the point. Not their errors, not their human errors is responsible for.
That's very interesting, and it brings the incident into new light. Now, Professor, we have discussed the actual cause of the accident, but I understand you believe there's also a fundamental mistake that led to the accident. What exactly do you think was wrong?
I think there is a background, particularly the cultural background, I guess. Not a whole, but in a part of Japanese traditional culture, there seems to be a preference to rely on human activities rather than to rely on foolproofing or fail-safing automatic mechanism.
Oh, so there's a reliance on human judgment rather than machinery.
Yes. So the skills acquired after hard training are considered superior to the clumsy mechanical artifact devices. And I'm not going to say that this is a cause of the accident, but still in the background, the cultural factor lies, I guess. So the second lesson that we have to learn from the accident is reconfirm the fact that in the industry where the safety is the utmost value, like nuclear industry, the clumsy mechanical method is most reliable. That is the second lesson I introduced from this accident.
That's interesting because Japan has always been introducing to the world state-of-art technology, and it's rather sad to think that they don't believe in it themselves, that this has always been the case.
What I'd like to say is I do not think that by means of all our efforts, total safety cannot be realized. I don't think so. Total safety is only an ideal.
Right.
And
a goal that we all strive for.
Yeah. And in the cultural background that I told you before, the considering the human facilities with hard training is more valuable than the clumsy mechanical devices. Once a critical accident accident takes place, the individual persons related with the accident are to be blamed for their carelessness, for their intelligence, for their ignorance, for their errors, from the viewpoint of morality or the ethical viewpoint. But I think this is wrong. This is not the way to make progress towards the goal, namely safety.
So what should be done?
Well, accident is, in a sense, the treasure.
A lesson.
For us, a lesson, of course, yes.
Which we should learn from.
Yeah. Based on the idea that the human beings, however hard they train, might commit errors. That is the basic idea. And based on that idea, we are advised to analyze every detail of the accidents and to make all the efforts so that we could avoid or protect or make the damage less serious when a similar error induces an accident. So that is the most important lesson for getting the goal in society, namely getting the goal of safety in society. Yeah.
Well, Professor Murakami, of course there have been other radioactive leakage accidents in Japan and abroad, and few of them were fatal. But in Europe and the United States, there have been a dramatic decline in the number of such accidents. Is this because European countries such as France and the United States have learned from their mistakes?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Japan should do the same.
Exactly. That's my belief. And that is not only the belief, but it has some evidences, I guess. Yeah.
But has Japan learned from this particular accident? I mean, it's almost, I guess, 6 weeks since the accident has occurred, but where is Japan's nuclear energy policy going? Which direction is the industry going? Which direction is it aiming to go?
Well, that is for instance, it diverges from agent to agent, I guess. Because, for instance, the Science Technology Agency, that is governmental, in that there is growing a kind of climate to get to safety by following what I suggested. But of course, in the enterprises, I guess, there is a problem of the cost performance.
Yes.
And taking into the consideration the cost performance, they want to take some suggestions, but they cannot take them literally for the reason of economical efficiencies or something.
Yes, I hear that JCO is under pressure to reprocess more uranium with less cost, and which was also another cause of the accident.
Exactly. So again, we have to learn from the accident that accident itself costs tremendously to the firm itself. So to avoid the accident is most economic way that they should take.
I think, well, it certainly sounds like this accident has certainly fueled a lot of debate and questions among the industry and around the industry. And I certainly hope that we will find solutions to every question that has been raised.
So I think this is a good opportunity to discuss all the things related to the nuclear power.
Well, Professor Murakami, thank you very much.